The diplomatic vessel Harmonious Purpose had been hovering over Earth for exactly 3 hours and 47 minutes when Commander Vrell made what would later be recorded as the worst decision in galactic history. Not that anyone warned him, mind you. The Galactic Council's briefing on humanity consisted of precisely 4 bullet points, 2 of which were contradictory, and one that simply read, "They survived. Somehow." "Initiate first contact protocols," Vrell announced, his 3 primary eye stalks swiveling toward the blue planet below. His exoskeleton gleamed under the bridge lights, a testament to 200 years of military service across 17 star systems. "Sir, are you certain?" Lieutenant Crix's mandibles clicked nervously. "The preliminary scans show unusual chemical compositions in their food supply. Nothing in the database matches these molecular structures. Crix, we've made contact with 473 species. I think we can handle whatever these humans eat." Vrell's confidence was the kind that only comes from never having encountered a gas station burrito. The landing coordinates led them to something called a shopping mall in a place designated as Ohio, which, according to their translator, meant either beautiful river or land of disappointment, depending on who you asked. Both translations would prove accurate. Vrell assembled his team carefully. Protocol Officer Thenner, whose 14 tentacles could sign treaties in multiple languages simultaneously. Science Officer Bort, who'd catalogued over 9,000 alien food sources without incident. Security Chief Grax, whose species had evolved specifically to digest toxins as a defense mechanism, and Medical Officer Lin, because someone had to document whatever was about to go wrong. They materialized in the food court at exactly 2:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. "Greetings, primitive beings," Vrell's translator blared at maximum volume. "We come in peace to establish diplomatic relations and cultural exchange." The teenager behind the Sparrow counter didn't even look up from his phone. "Yeah, cool. You want pizza?" This was not going according to plan. Thenner's tentacles twitched with confusion. She'd practiced 17 different species greeting ceremonies. None of them involved pizza. Perhaps they didn't hear the commander. Their auditory organs might be less developed. "I heard him," the teenager, whose name tag read Derek, muttered. "You're like the 3rd alien species this month. Last week we had those guys with the crystal faces trying to sell timeshares. Before that, some robot thing wanted to know if we'd accepted Zorgon as our personal savior." He finally looked up, unimpressed. "So, pizza or nah?" Vrell's eye stalks drooped slightly. "This planet receives multiple contact attempts? Dude, we're next to a Cinnabon. Everyone stops here eventually." Derek gestured vaguely at the mall around them. "Now, I get off in 20 minutes. And I'd really like to not have my manager yelling at me for the alien thing again, so what'll it be?" Bort stepped forward, his scanner humming. "We should sample the local cuisine. For diplomatic purposes, for scientific purposes." Bort corrected himself when Vrell shot him a look. "That's what I said." Derek rolled his eyes and started assembling something that could generously be called food. Processed cheese that had never seen a cow, sauce from concentrate that had been concentrated so many times it had forgotten what a tomato was. Dough that contained 47 ingredients, of which flour was only the 16th most prominent. "Here." Derek slid the paper plate across the counter. "That'll be $8.50. Thenner translated the local currency and produced what she hoped was the correct payment. It was actually a commemorative coin from the Andromeda gift shop, but Derek pocketed it anyway. He'd seen weirder. The team retreated to a table near the broken fountain. 4 alien beings, representatives of the Galactic Council, huddled around a single slice of mall pizza like it was an unexploded ordnance. "Scans indicate the temperature is approximately 1,000 degrees, Bort announced, his instruments clicking, in what I can only assume is a measurement system they invented specifically to confuse everyone. "They call them Fahrenheit," Lin offered helpfully. "Though why they didn't adopt the metric system that literally everyone else uses remains one of this planet's greatest mysteries." Grax leaned forward, his armored plates shifting. "My species can consume sulfuric acid. This should be no problem." He picked up the slice. "Wait." Bort held up a manipulator. "Let me scan it first. The molecular composition is... That can't be right." "What?" "According to this, The cheese substitute contains 7 compounds that don't exist in nature. The meat product is only 63% meat. The rest is listed as meat-adjacent material and something called natural flavoring, which is apparently neither natural nor flavoring. Vrell's patience, already worn thin by Derek's complete lack of awe at their arrival, finally snapped. It's food, from a primitive planet. How dangerous could it possibly be? Historians would note this as the second worst decision of the day. Grax bit into the pizza. His eyes, all 6 of them, widened. His mouth parts stopped moving. For a long moment, nothing happened. Then he spoke, and his voice carried a strange mixture of horror and reverence. I don't. What is this? Pizza, Thenna supplied helpfully. It tastes like violence. Like someone took every bad decision in the universe and compressed it into this triangle of regret. The cheese isn't real. The bread is angry at me. I can taste the existential dread of whatever animal provided the meat. He took another bite. It's magnificent. Lynn's scanner beeped frantically. Grax, your neurotransmitters are going haywire. You're experiencing something the humans call a food coma, and simultaneously a sugar rush, both at the same time. That shouldn't be possible. And yet, Grax took another bite. Vrell snatched the pizza away. We're not here to poison ourselves with primitive cuisine. We're here to establish first contact properly. He glared at Derek, who was now watching YouTube videos and completely ignoring the alien drama unfolding 15 feet away. We need to speak with your leaders. Derek glanced up. Leaders? Yes, your president, your military command, your scientific authorities. Oh, Derek thought for a moment. You'd probably want City Hall, but they're closed on Tuesdays. Budget cuts. Then who is in charge right now? Derek pointed to a woman sitting near the carousel, eating Chinese food and reading a romance novel. That's Brenda. She's the mall manager, pretty much runs everything within a 5-mile radius. Thenna's tentacles formed a question mark in mid-air. The mall manager is your supreme authority. In this zip code? Yeah, basically. Vrell approached Brenda with all the dignity his species could muster, which, to be fair, was considerable. 2 centuries of diplomatic experience, medals from a dozen campaigns, the respect of the entire Galactic Council. Excuse me, Mum. Brenda looked up from her book. If you're here about the leak in the East Wing, maintenance says Thursday. No, we are representatives of the Galactic Council, here to make formal contact with your species. Uh-huh. She bookmarked her page with a used napkin. Look, I don't care what planet you're from. The rules are the same. No soliciting, no loitering, and if you're not buying anything, security's gonna ask you to leave. We've had 3 different alien groups try to set up kiosks this year. One was selling healing crystals that actually healed you. We had to shut it down. People were living forever and not paying rent. Bort's scanner beeped. Commander, I'm detecting elevated stress hormones. Perhaps we should try a different approach. You're a science officer, not a diplomat, Vrell snapped. Then, to Brenda, we wish to understand your people, to learn your customs, to share in cultural exchange. Brenda sighed the sigh of someone who'd dealt with worse than aliens before breakfast. You want to understand humans? Yes, finally. Go to the food court. Eat 1 meal from every restaurant. If you survive that, you'll understand everything you need to know about us. That's it? That's your test? Honey, if you can handle American food court cuisine, you can handle anything humanity throws at you. She returned to her book. Now, if you'll excuse me, Lord Ravencrest is about to confess his undying love, and I've been waiting 200 pages for this. Vrell looked at his team. His team looked back. Even through their alien expressions, the concern was universal. How hard could it be? Grax asked, still holding the pizza. Lynn checked her medical scanner. According to their internet, which I've been monitoring, approximately 47% of their content is about food that's trying to kill them, 12% is videos of cats, and the rest is arguments about whether water is wet. Water is obviously wet, Thenna said. See, you'd think so, but the humans have been debating this for years. Vrell squared his shoulders, or rather, the part of his anatomy that served a similar purpose. Very well. If we must prove ourselves through their cuisine, then so be it. We are trained diplomats, seasoned explorers. We have consumed delicacies from 400 systems. How different could one food court be? The universe, in its infinite wisdom and questionable sense of humor, decided not to answer that question directly. Instead, it let them find out the hard way. They started at Panda Express. What? Bort asked slowly, his scanner pressed against a bright orange piece of chicken. Is orange about this chicken? The employee, a young woman named Jessica, shrugged. Dunno. Been working here 6 months. Never asked. And this General So, was he a military commander? Probably. Sure. Why not? Then tried a piece. Her tentacles immediately began color shifting through the entire visible spectrum, and 3 colors that technically didn't exist. It's sweet, and spicy, and sweet again. And, is that anger? Am I tasting the concept of anger? MSG, probably, Jessica offered. Want some fortune cookies? They did. The fortunes were ominous. Grax is red. You will soon question all your choices. Vrell said. Help me, I'm trapped in a fortune cookie factory. Bort's was just a phone number for a therapist. Next came Subway. The sandwich artist, a philosophy major named Trevor, explained the concept of a foot-long while making a sandwich that somehow contained more types of lettuce than should exist in nature. You put the vegetables inside the bread? Vrell asked, fascinated despite himself. Yeah, man. It's like a metaphor for life, you know. We're all just vegetables trying to find our place in the bread of existence. Trevor, did you eat the brownies from the break room again? Jessica called from Panda Express. Maybe. The meatball marinara defeated Grax, not because it was bad, but because midway through eating it, he realized he couldn't remember what the meatballs were made of, and the existential crisis paralyzed him for a full 2 minutes. Taco Bell was next. That's when things got really weird. Excuse me, Lynn asked the employee, whose name tag proclaimed him to be Josh but call me J-Money. What exactly is in a Crunchwrap Supreme? J-Money grinned. You want the official answer or the real answer? There's a difference? Oh, sweet summer alien, you have no idea. They ordered one of everything, partly for science, partly because J-Money's sales pitch was surprisingly compelling for someone making minimum wage. Then held up a taco. This shell appears to be fractal. Each layer of crunch contains another layer of crunch. This violates at least 3 laws of physics. Yeah, that tracks, J-Money agreed. Bort's scanner exploded, just straight up sparked and died. The molecular composition is changing while I watch it. The cheese is evolving. Don't worry about it, J-Money assured them. Happens all the time. By the time they reached Cinnabon, the team was already showing signs of what Lynn clinically described as severe gastronomic distress, and what Grax more accurately called a crisis of faith in a benevolent universe. This, Vrell said, staring at a classic roll that appeared to violate the laws of thermodynamics by being both liquid and solid simultaneously, is biological warfare. It's 1,200 calories, the Cinnabon employee said cheerfully. Would you like extra frosting? They would not. They huddled at their table, surrounded by empty containers that bore the logos of a dozen different chains. Each one had tested them in ways their diplomatic training hadn't prepared them for. We need to report back to the Council, Vrell said weakly. This planet is. They weaponized their food. Not intentionally, I don't think, but the result is the same. Commander, Bort wheezed. I don't think I can move. Same. They sat there for 20 minutes, digesting both the food and the implications. Around them, humans came and went, completely unfazed by the cuisine that had nearly destroyed an elite diplomatic team. Children ate chicken nuggets with the casualness of people who didn't know they were consuming something that technically qualified as a chemical experiment. How? Venner whispered. How do they survive this every day? Brenda walked past, noticed their distress, and actually smiled. You boys okay? Your species, Vrell managed, is terrifying. Yeah, we get that a lot. She patted his shoulder, companionably. But hey, you survived the food court. That's more than most aliens manage. The last group made it to Auntie Anne's pretzels before they had to evacuate to their ship. What happened to them? Nobody knows. They never came back. She walked away, leaving the team to contemplate their mortality and their lunch in equal measure. Derek appeared, off his shift, carrying his own slice of pizza. "So, you guys gonna invade or what?" "No," Vrell said immediately. "Absolutely not. This planet is marked as a Class 7 hazard. Cultural exchange only. Very limited. Maybe just some emails." "Cool, cool." Derek took a bite of his pizza. "Hey, before you go, you want to try Taco Bell's new beefy melt burrito? It's pretty good." The aliens fled to their ship, leaving behind a food court full of confused employees and one very satisfied mall manager. In orbit, Vrell filed his report. It was marked Priority 1 and titled, "Humans do not engage in culinary combat. They've been training their whole lives." The Galactic Council received it with skepticism, right up until they read the part about the Crunchwrap Supreme and its fractal properties. After that, Earth was placed on a very special list, not of planets to conquer or study or trade with, but of planets to maybe just observe from a distance, a safe distance, like several star systems away. Because any species that could casually consume what the aliens ate and call it lunch was either the most dangerous beings in the universe or the most resilient. The Council suspected both. 3 weeks after what would forever be known as the food court incident, Commander Vrell received a message that made his eye stalks droop with dread. The Galactic Council wanted a follow-up mission. Apparently, his report had been too vague and suspiciously dramatic. High Chancellor Morphix herself had reviewed it and concluded that no species could possibly be that terrifying based solely on their lunch options. "She wants proof," Lieutenant Crick said, mandibles clicking anxiously. "Real documentation. She thinks you exaggerated." "Exaggerated?" Vrell's voice hit a pitch that could shatter glass on 3 planets. "I watched Bort's scanner commit suicide rather than continue analyzing their food. Grax wouldn't eat for 2 days. Thena's tentacles are still color cycling through trauma responses. Nevertheless, we're going back." "Absolutely not." "Sir, it's a direct order." Vrell stared out at the stars, contemplating a career change. Maybe he could retire, take up competitive rock stacking on Peloria 9, anything but return to Earth and its nightmare cuisine. But orders were orders. This time, they came prepared. Medical Officer Lin had requisitioned every digestive aid in the galactic pharmacy. Bort brought 3 backup scanners. Grax wore his full combat armor, which seemed excessive until he explained it had built-in stomach plating. Thena learned 17 new stress management techniques. They also brought Specialist Rook, a translator who'd studied over 900 languages and claimed to understand human sarcasm. This would prove to be a catastrophic lie. "Where are we landing this time?" Rook asked, all 4 of his optical sensors gleaming with misplaced confidence. "Somewhere called a state fair," Vrell read from his briefing. "According to the data, it's a cultural celebration where humans showcase their agricultural achievements and traditional foods." "That sounds reasonable," Lin said hopefully. "That's what worries me," Grax muttered. They materialized near something called the Midway at exactly 6:32 p.m. on a Friday. The smell hit them first. A mixture of sugar, oil, desperation, and what Bort's scanner identified as consequences. "By the stars," Thena whispered. "What is that aroma?" A man in a stained apron walked past, carrying what appeared to be a stick with meat spiraling around it. "Deep-fried turkey leg," he shouted. "Get your deep-fried turkey leg here." "Deep-fried," Rook translated carefully. "That means cooked in hot oil, yes?" "Correct." "And turkey is a bird?" "Also correct." "So they're just frying an entire bird leg?" "Appears so." Rook's optical sensors dimmed. "I may have miscalculated human cuisine." They ventured deeper into the fair, past games that seemed designed to drain money from people who clearly understood probability but chose to ignore it. Past rides that spun humans in directions that definitely violated their biological design specifications. Past a petting zoo, where children fed animals that would later be turned into the food being sold 50 feet away. The efficiency was disturbing. "Look," Crix pointed at a booth with his smaller manipulator. "That one says, award-winning. Surely award-winning food would be safe?" The booth advertised something called deep-fried butter. "That's not possible," Bort said flatly. "Butter is already essentially pure fat. You can't fry fat. That's like trying to water down water or make space more spacey. The vendor, a woman named Shirley, who'd been working fairs for 30 years and had seen things that would make health inspectors weep, grinned at them. "You folks aliens? How did you know?" Vrell asked. "Honey, you're 7 feet tall and purple. Also, you're the third group this month. Word's getting around that our fairs are something else." She held up a golden brown blob on a stick. "Want to try the butter? What happens if we eat that?" Lynn asked, scanner already out. "You'll either achieve enlightenment or need a nap. Maybe both." Shirley shrugged. "I just make 'em. What folks do after ain't my business." Against every instinct screaming at him, Vrell accepted the fried butter. It was warm. It smelled like regret and carnival music. He took a bite. "Oh no," he whispered. "What? What is it?" Thenna leaned closer. "It's delicious. It's absolutely horrifying and completely delicious, and I hate that I don't hate it." He took another bite, his eye stalks swiveling in confusion. "This shouldn't work, on any level." And yet, Grax tried one, then another. Then had what Lynn would later describe as a stress-induced emotional breakthrough, where he sat on a hay bale and questioned his entire career in the galactic military while eating his 4th fried butter on a stick. They moved on before anyone else had a similar crisis. The fair was enormous, booth after booth of food that violated common sense. Deep-fried candy bars, deep-fried ice cream, deep-fried cookie dough, deep-fried pizza. If it existed, someone had decided it needed to be deep-fried, put on a stick, and sold to people who really should have known better. "Is everything here deep-fried?" Rook asked weakly. "Not everything," said a teenager walking past with something called bacon-wrapped corn on the cob covered in hot Cheetos. "What is that?" Bort's scanner beeped frantically. "Dinner," the teen said, and walked away. They found a picnic table near the livestock barns and assessed their situation. Around them, humans ate things that would constitute war crimes on most civilized planets. Children consumed cotton candy bigger than their heads. Adults wielded turkey legs like weapons. Someone walked past with a bucket of fried dough covered in powdered sugar, and the powdered sugar seemed to exist in a quantum state where it was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. "We need a strategy," Vrell announced. "We can't just randomly sample everything. We'll die." "Agreed," Lynn said, reviewing her medical data. "The human digestive system appears to have evolved specifically to handle this. Or maybe they're all just really good at pretending they're fine. My scans can't tell the difference." "There." Crix pointed at a booth with an actual line of humans waiting. "If the locals are willing to wait, it must be significant." The booth sold something called funnel cake. "Explain this to," Vrell demanded of the vendor, a college student named Amber who was saving up for a car. "It's basically fried dough with powdered sugar." "That's it? I mean, you can add toppings. Strawberries, chocolate, whipped cream, more sugar." "More sugar? How much sugar does it start with?" Amber thought about it. "Yes. That's not an answer." "Sure it is." She handed them a funnel cake the size of a small planet. "That'll be $8. They shared it, carefully, each taking a small piece like they were defusing a bomb, which, nutritionally speaking, wasn't far from the truth. "This is 90% air," Bort observed. "And 10% sugar," Thenna added. "I don't understand how this is food," Rook said, but he was already reaching for another piece. An hour later, they'd sampled deep-fried Oreos, which raised philosophical questions about whether cookies could be improved or if humans just liked watching their food suffer. They'd tried corn dogs, which were hot dogs wrapped in cornbread and deep-fried, because apparently the hot dog alone wasn't enough chaos. They'd encountered something called a walking taco, which was just a bag of chips with taco toppings dumped inside, and honestly, by that point, nothing surprised them anymore. "I need to sit down," Grax announced, stumbling toward a bench. "You're already sitting," Lynn pointed out. "I need to sit down more." A group of teenagers walked past, laughing and shoving each other, eating things that glowed in colors that didn't exist in nature. One had a lemonade so blue it registered on Bort's scanner as mildly radioactive. "How are they alive?" Thenna asked the universe in general. "Built different," said a man sitting nearby, eating his 3rd blooming onion of the evening. "We're Americans. We don't die. We just marinate." Vrell tried to process that. Failed. Decided it didn't matter. They were about to call it a night when they saw the sign. The terrible, wonderful, absolutely ridiculous sign. Food eating contest. Tonight at 8 p.m. Grand prize, $50 and a trophy. We should go, Vrell said. Sir, with respect, are you insane? Crix's mandibles clicked in distress. The council wants proof. They want to understand humans. What better way than to observe their competitive eating rituals? We could literally do anything else, Grax suggested. Come on, what's the worst that could happen? The universe, again, declined to answer. The contest stage was set up near the Ferris wheel. About 30 humans stood ready, stretching and preparing like they were about to run a marathon instead of eating 70 hot dogs in 10 minutes. The host, a radio DJ named Tommy who wore sunglasses despite it being dark and clearly thought he was much funnier than he actually was, grabbed the microphone. All right, folks, who's ready to see some absolute legends destroy their digestive systems for minimal financial gain? The crowd cheered. Humans were weird. We got some newcomers tonight. Tommy spotted the aliens in the crowd. You folks want to compete? We're equal opportunity here at the Millbrook County Fair. No, Vrell said. We would be honored, Rook said at the exact same time. Everyone looked at Rook. What? It's a cultural exchange. This is why we came. We came to observe, not participate in what appears to be sanctioned self-harm. Commander, think of the report we could write. First-hand experience of human competitive eating. The council would have to take us seriously. Vrell's eye stalks drooped. Rook was right, and he hated it. Fine, but only one of us. They all looked at Grax, who could digest sulfuric acid and had already proven himself the most food-resilient. Absolutely not, Grax said. It's an order. I'll resign. You can't resign. We're in the middle of a mission. Then court-martial me. 10 minutes later, Grax stood on stage between a woman named Rita, who'd won this contest 3 years, running, and a teenager named Brandon who'd made a terrible bet with his friends. The food was revealed. Hot dogs. 70 of them. 10 minutes. This is fine, Grax muttered to himself. I've faced enemy fire. I've survived vacuum exposure. I can handle processed meat tubes. The starting horn blew. Rita and Brandon became blur of motion, shoving hot dogs into their faces with the efficiency of machines. Other contestants followed suit, some with technique, most with desperation. Grax picked up a hot dog, examined it. His military training kicked in. Assess the enemy. Find the weakness. Execute the plan. He bit into it. Oh no, he said, which was becoming his catchphrase on Earth. It wasn't bad. That was the problem. It was the perfect combination of salt, fat, processed meat product, and structural integrity that made it way too easy to eat. He finished it, grabbed another, then another. By minute 3, he'd eaten 12 hot dogs and was experiencing what humans called getting in the zone. By minute 6, he'd matched Rita's pace. By minute 8, he'd surpassed everyone except Brandon, who turned out to be secretly training for this all summer and had a lot riding on that bet. The crowd was going wild. Humans loved an underdog story, and apparently, aliens counted as underdogs in eating contests. 30 seconds, Tommy announced. Brandon's at 42, our mysterious alien competitor is at 40, and Rita's at 38. This is the closest competition we've ever had. Grax's strategic military mind kicked into overdrive. He'd come this far. He'd embarrassed himself in front of his crew, his commander, and roughly 300 humans. He might as well commit. He entered what would later be described in his official report as a fugue state of competitive consumption. 5 hot dogs in the final 30 seconds. When the horn blew, Brandon had eaten 47 hot dogs. Grax had eaten 45. Rita got 43. The crowd erupted. Grax stood there, covered in mustard and existential dread, while Tommy declared Brandon the winner and presented him with a trophy that was definitely plastic but decorated to look gold. And a special recognition for our out-of-town competitor. Tommy handed Grax a ribbon that said second place with a cartoon hot dog on it. You gave Brandon a real run for his money there, pal. Grax accepted the ribbon with all the dignity he could muster, which was not much considering he'd just eaten 45 hot dogs in 10 minutes. Back at the picnic table, the team sat in stunned silence. So, Vrell said eventually, that happened. I'm retiring, Grax announced. Effective immediately. I'm going to go live on a moon somewhere and contemplate my life choices. You came in second place, Crix offered. That's actually quite impressive. I ate 45 hot dogs, Crix, in front of 300 people. There's no coming back from that. My military career is over. My social standing is destroyed. Future generations will speak of me as a cautionary tale. Actually, Lynn interrupted, checking her scanner, you're trending on their internet, something called TikTok. There are videos of you eating. Millions of views. What? She showed him her display. Sure enough, dozens of videos of the contest were circulating, with captions like, "Alien absolutely destroys hot dogs," and "My man came from another galaxy to eat Earth food." Respect. "I'm famous," Grax whispered. "I'm famous for eating hot dogs." "Could be worse," Thenna offered. "How?" "You could have won. Then you'd really be famous." They left the fair shortly after, loaded down with fried food in containers, a ribbon, and trauma that would require extensive therapy once they returned to the fleet. On the ship, Vrell composed his second report to the Galactic Council. This one was different, more detailed, more respectful, because he'd realized something important during their time at the fair. Humans weren't trying to be terrifying. They weren't weaponizing their food. They were just living their lives, eating things that made them happy, competing in ridiculous contests because it was fun. The fact that their cuisine could double as biological warfare was almost accidental. Almost. His report concluded with a recommendation. Establish diplomatic relations with Earth, but never, under any circumstances, accept an invitation to eat with them. Trade agreements were fine. Cultural exchanges were acceptable. But meals should be strictly off the table, so to speak. The Galactic Council received the report, complete with video evidence of the hot dog contest, and Bort's detailed molecular analysis of funnel cake, which had caused 3 scientists to temporarily lose their faith in chemistry. High Chancellor Morphix read the entire thing, watched all the videos, and made her decision. Earth was officially designated as a Class 3 diplomatic partner with a Class 7 Culinary Hazard warning. Translation: humans were friendly enough to work with, but should never be allowed near a galactic potluck. 3 months later, formal diplomatic relations were established. Ambassador Vrell, promoted despite his protests, returned to Earth for the ceremony. It was held in a nice hotel conference room with catered food from a very expensive, very fancy restaurant. "We've prepared a selection of our finest cuisine." The human diplomat, a woman named Patricia who wore power suits and no-nonsense expressions equally well, announced, "I hope it's more to your liking than mall food." Vrell looked at the spread. Tiny portions on huge plates, things that looked artistic but not particularly edible. A foam that may have been food or may have been decorative. He couldn't tell. "This looks very safe," he said diplomatically. "It's molecular gastronomy," Patricia explained. "Very trendy. The chef uses liquid nitrogen and spherification techniques." Bort's scanner beeped. "Commander, I'm detecting compounds that technically shouldn't be stable at this temperature. Is it going to kill us?" "Unknown." Vrell took a deep breath, or the equivalent with his respiratory system, and picked up a fork. He tried a tiny sphere of something that burst in his mouth with flavors he couldn't identify. It was strange. It was weird. It was probably pretentious. It was nothing compared to deep-fried butter on a stick. "It's wonderful," he lied, "because he was a diplomat and that's what diplomats did." Patricia smiled. She knew he was lying. He knew she knew. But they both pretended otherwise because that's how diplomacy worked. After the ceremony, after the speeches and the treaty signing and the photo opportunities, Vrell found himself outside the hotel, breathing in Earth's atmosphere and watching humans go about their evening. Some walked dogs, some jogged past despite it being dark and there being no apparent danger to run from. Some stood in line at a food truck that sold something called Korean BBQ tacos, because humans couldn't help but fusion cuisine everything. Derek appeared from around the corner, still in his Sparrow uniform. Apparently he'd been invited to the ceremony because he technically made first contact. He was eating pizza. "Hey, Commander, how'd the fancy dinner go?" It was very formal. "Bet you missed the food court, huh?" Vrell's eye stalk swiveled toward the pizza. "That would be inappropriate to admit." "Uh-huh." Derek held out the slice. "Want some? For old time's sake?" Vrell looked at the pizza, at this terrible, wonderful, completely ridiculous food that had started this entire adventure. He thought about his orders, his dignity, his position as Earth's official ambassador, Then he took the slice. "Your species," he said between bites, "is absolutely insane." "Yeah," Derek agreed cheerfully. "We know. That's what makes us fun." And somewhere, in the galactic records, a note was added to Earth's file. "Humans are crazy, but they're our kind of crazy. Just don't eat with them unless you're prepared for the consequences." The Harmonious Purpose left Earth orbit 3 days later. In the cargo hold, carefully stored and refrigerated, were samples of every food they'd encountered. For science. Definitely for science. Not because Grax had developed a concerning addiction to fried butter. That would be ridiculous. Totally ridiculous. He ate 7 more before they reached the first jump gate.